Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign and today we're going to be going over the development update on May the 3rd. It is May the 3rd, 2020. So basically the developers came out with a little bit of information for us just regarding the UI and some of the changes. It's basically one of those fluff pieces to pass the time where they're just letting you know that they have what they've been getting up to, what they've been doing, the functionality, reliability and usability of the UI as it stands, what it started off as, which is at the top here. You'll see here what the actual it looks like. It looks like Second Galaxy. It looks exactly like Second Galaxy to me. And then it sort of looks more Eve-like in the second iteration. You've got the little icon at the top there with on the left-hand side is the bar that you have in Eve Online. I suppose these are supposed to be the modules. So your weapon modules, your highs, your lows, your mid slots. And then it sort of went into what we had in the beta. So this third one at the bottom here is what we had in the beta. This is generally what we had. And there's a few differences. The chat was a bit different. The top left, the character portrait was very different. That wasn't what it was before. What we had was over here we have the eye, which was the sort of you can move certain aspects of the UI around the screen, which was not too wasn't too tasty, and I didn't like it. I was complaining nearly every day I was complaining about the fact that, like, when I was touching around the screen, sometimes you'll catch the corner of the overview window and you drag it across the screen and you'll be right in front of where you're trying to. It was a fucking nightmare. For me personally, it was an absolute nightmare. What we got here in the bottom, this is what it looks like now as we have it right now. This is how the UI looks. And I will try to do, I'll probably zoom into this bottom one here, or I'll zoom into them as we're individually talking about them during like post editing. But what we have at the bottom here is the top left looks much cleaner, looks much nicer. I prefer not having the little box sort of like, there's a lot of wasted real estate on the screen when it was the old UI. You had a lot of the stuff like it was in from the edge of the phone, like from the borders of the phone screen, which for me is just wasted, and there wasn't enough space on there anyway. And I understand that it's because some phones have the curved monitors, the curved screens, for example, that if you touch it in different ways, like while you're holding the phone, you could accidentally press something which could screw up your gameplay, etc. But what you have now is in the top left, you have the character avatar up there. Looks much better, looks cleaner, tells you where it is. It's right up in the corner, saving some space on there. What you can see here in the bottom is that the actual the CPU and the shield's armor and hull have all changed. There's different colors now. You can see that on the right hand side is the cap, I'm guessing, but it's orange instead of what it was in the past time. That's confusing, but okay. But the thing that it doesn't have is that I can see is the sort of where it had the mini map. Like if you see on the other one, it has the mini map where it shows you sort of the orientation. It's like a flight map. When if you've ever played games like Elite Dangerous and all these sort of games, they have like a flight map, whereas a tactical map where you can see if the ships, where they are around you, but also the elevation. So depending on where they are, they'll be higher and then they'll be lower. That has changed, so it doesn't look like that's actually on it anymore. And then you've got on the right hand side, there's a picture we'll get to later, which is on the right hand side, you see where the eye is, where it's actually static now. And it opens up a little menu that comes across on the side of the screen, which is so much better, so much better. Also what they've added on the UI now, originally they just had like, on the pictures when you actually had the target on there, it showed you the symbol of the class of ship that it was. This isn't the case anymore. They now have pictures for each individual ship. I quite liked the symbols because you could see what you needed to target first. You can't, like, if it doesn't matter how many ships, you don't have to memorize 400 ships. Because for each individual picture, you can tell which one is the frigate, which one is the destroyer, which one's the cruiser, which is the battleship, which is the capital ship, and you know, like, by targeting, you'll know which one to go for first. The frigates will usually be the ones that are flying around you in circles, stopping you from being able to warp away using a disruptor, or they'll be webbing you, or like you'll have the cruisers, and depending on the distance of the cruiser, you can tell. It's more difficult to know and guess what it is with the actual pictures of the ships for a person who hasn't been playing Eve at all before. Some of the other things that I've noticed is the way that they've moved this over. That's all been moved over to the left, but they have the inventory, they have the planetary, and they have this addition symbol, maybe so we can add what we'd like in a quick menu, which for me is perfect. I love that shit. What we have in the bottom left down here, I don't know what that 20, oh, that's just the sign of the 2020. They got the chat down there. It's put in the bottom left, so it's saving up some space. The icons are still quite large and they're still taking over quite a lot of space. My one problem is that you'll see in a picture down here, if it's still here, here we go. So this is what the actual overview now looks like. So the overview on the screen you've got right there is it pulled out, so the little eye that you have in the previous picture, so that's been pulled out, so that's going to stay there static. And for me, this is cleaner, this is easier, this is how it should be. I was complaining about this for God knows how long, and the devs finally either listened to me or just got annoyed and thought, fuck it, just leave, get him to stop complaining. But it has the different options there. You have the 3 options that are quite easy, but these little side options here, if you have a look, they look a bit small. So people like me who have fat fingers might touch a few too many things on that way through. Everything else is still the same in the bottom left here, but this looks different compared to what they have in the product up here. So you see how the chat is right in the bottom corner, but this might just be the way it's been cut off screen. So we don't know. They wanted to talk about the weapon slot designs. So maximum sense of freedom, of that we know and love from EVE Online. So this is showing what EVE Online options are, but these are fighters. So they're not in EVE Echoes, like they're going to be in there for a while until we figure out the Citadels. Maybe they have them in the Citadels, which will be in on launch. But they have all the different weapons and items, and these are the passives over here, which no one ever has opened. I don't know why they're showing them there. What we have in the next picture is the implement. So they're talking about when they implemented the gestures. So the gestures are when you hold the button down, you swipe across the screen, you use 2 fingers to zoom in and zoom out, for example. These sort of things are what they needed to implement when doing the touchscreen. They're just showing us sort of like 3 of the options that are there. Remember, always long tap, hold the button down. If there's a button, hold it down. There's always a secondary, always a secondary. A lot of people made that mistake during the beta test where they couldn't figure out the information on different modules because they didn't know they had to hold it down. And then they added things like the auto lock, which is okay in PvE, I suppose, but like even then, if you're flying a destroyer and doing tier 10s like we were doing, you can't auto lock. You have to pick what you're going to be fighting. You have to pick what class of ship first. You have to understand what types of ships do what damage, what range those types of ships do. So using the easy lock will be only if you're like stupidly overpowered, you're in high sec and you've got a 4 billion ISK ship and you've got all the best items and modules and blah blah blah. You can easy lock to your heart's content. I wouldn't use this function in like if you're just getting into doing stuff, unless you're doing the really low level stuff. The really low level stuff is fine. But if you're like if you're doing content that's higher than what your ship can usually handle, but you're cheesing it with range or you're cheesing it with speed, etc., this is an option you don't want to use. So the overview over here, what we have here is like they have the standard setup of where they wanted everything to be. So you've got the chat over here, you've got how many people are in local, you've got the modules and your inventory stuff and your blah blah blah, and over here on your right hand side is your overview where you'll be able to see players, which is on that picture I showed you earlier. So on the right hand side here, you've got here, which is the basic HUD of the UI, which is your obviously your shield, your armor, and your hull and your capacitor, with nothing on the screen there. But that might be different because there might just be no one around you at the time of this picture. What I like in the top left hand side now is you've got the battery, you've got how much you've got your Wi-Fi strength or your phone strength, depending if you're using 4G or 5G. You got the time there, which is much better. They didn't have that in the original one. You've got your local chat and then your other stuff like your corp chat and your local chat, depending on which one you want to speak into. You've got your messages, private messages, and your DMs. I was getting a lot of comments in Discord about how they believe that the Chinese community is getting more say in suggestions and how the game should be modified. That is not the case. I bring a lot of stuff to the table from the community, from people in my Discord, from people in the EVE Echoes official Discord, and I take it to the moderators. And there's been a lot of these things that have been implemented and a lot of these things that have been changed. I don't want people to start thinking that, oh, because it's a Chinese company, they're only listening to Chinese players. They're really not. There's a lot of things that they have done for us, and we complain way more than anyone else. If you look at the suggestions box, if you look at the bugs box, if you look at all of these things, Westerners are the ones that are piling in the suggestions, piling in the hate, piling in, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, this shouldn't be this way, that shouldn't be that way. We do that. So the suggestions are coming from us. And that's all we have for today. If you'd like to read anything in a development update, I'll put the link down in the description. I'll put one link for the Twitter and one link for the Facebook, so please check them out. Remember to like and sub if you found this useful or enjoyable. Fly safe.